Everybody's drunk. Everybody's drunk tonight. Everybody's drunk. Everybody's drunk tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Fortress, and joining me today, he only wears Lenny Kravitz sunglasses, Sweet Shawnee Kovacs from the internet.
You gotta help me to the bathroom. I'm not taking the glasses off.
And you wouldn't have to ask him twice to get into tight black leather, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I don't think a person could actually survive getting a human head shoved up their bum.
No, like you, listen, as the medical professional here, I don't even have to be one of those, but I can still say
is like, you don't want to think of it this way, but if you're in that situation, you'd rather be the one getting shoved into the bum and not the one having the head because you're dead, man. There's no way you survive those.
That is literally the only thing I could remember about this movie before we watched it this week.
And it was a high point in all of the trailers that they showed everywhere. Yes. I certainly remember that. They were just like, hey, when this happens, you guys are going to freak out. And the world did. They freaked out like big time and everything. And we'll talk about that. That is Hancock from 2008. And come to think of it, this was actually one that we thought we had covered for some time. Maybe we talked about it on the show or it was on the Film Find at some point. I don't know when, but we had forever and a day thought we had done this movie.
I never thought we'd done it.
I didn't either because I haven't seen it since the movie theater.
All right, I'm delusional. You've all heard it here.
You saw this in the theater.
I did.
Yeah. I think I saw. Yeah, I saw this in the theater, man. This was Will Smith,
this
2008.
Totally feels like the last days of Blockbuster, something I picked up there.
This was one of those movies that they don't make anymore.
And
where it's like, like, hey, high concept, bunch of famous people. You don't know anything about it. It's not IP. Let's go.
Yeah. Jump into it, and you're all supposed to just get along.
I think this came at the time I had lost faith in the Big Willie weekend. Like I quit going to see Will Smith movies opening night. Mm-hmm. So this one I probably waited for the Blockbuster DVD rental.
It was a long haul, but we'll get into all that kind
of
stuff.
Will Smith was really the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of his age, wasn't he?
In a lot of ways.
Covered the bases.
I will say this, though. I think overall, if we're going to be doing the comparison, far better actor.
Oh, without a doubt. It's not even close.
Just wait until Rock Johnson does his Concussion remake, and he does that.
I like how we're remaking that movie already.
It's begging for a remake.
They're just looking for it, and he needs to be more musclier this time.
He's already working on a film where he plays Tiger Woods' dad.
All right. Before we get into the show proper, though, we do want to say a big thank you to the people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those fine people get the pre-show, post-show, and Dinger Zone. And, of course, on the Dinger Zone, we talk about all the kind of fun things. And sometimes here it's even shop talk, figuring out what we're going to cover for all of our various 30 questions show and everything. So if you want to get in on all of that cool insider information and whatnot, patreon.com/HMP. And guess what, boys and girls? We also have a new Patreon supporter. Laura McMillan. Come on down, everybody. Let's get you a nickname from Sweet Shawnee. What do you got?
Well, first of all, I asked you off mic earlier today. Is it literally McMillion? Because that's how you wrote it to me, McMillion.
Yeah. Whatever I wrote, I copied and pasted that second time just to make sure.
Because it literally is spelt like McMillion.
McMillion. I don't know.
Yes, like the game, like the rigged game.
Maybe like one of her ancestors invented that game.
Maybe.
Listen, those people at HBO
Monopoly just has a bunch of problems everywhere, don't they? Like the way that whole thing came into existence, and then there's the rigged Monopoly game with McDonald's. So here's the thing, Laura. Since I now know that your name is McMillan, but I was told that it was McMillion, what I had as your name was rigged, was your HMP nickname.
That's sweet.
So you have to give me another week, Laura. And I
think rigged works either way.
I'll do my diligence and get you an actual HMP nickname next week because I was
it's the correct name, the spelling and everything. It is
really like McMillion.
Yes.
Why would somebody with the last name
MILLION?
Man, why would somebody with a last
So
name
is
like
it
McMillian
Irish
need
or
a
Scottish?
McMillian?
Well, Mick is Irish, Mac is Scottish.
Okay, so it's like maybe the offspring of a million people, and that's where that came from.
What
Very
are you
good.
on?
Very good. No.
It'd be like
I love.
Millionson in English.
I really like the logic. I love it. Let's keep going.
So, yeah, the English version's Millionson, but it's McMillian or
Yeah. It's very good.
So one more week for Laura and her.
Yeah, give me another week, Laura. I'm sorry.
All right, she's getting the most out of all of this. But Laura, thank you.
That's our new bit. She gets a new nickname every week until we get a new Patreon.
We're just gonna keep bumping you and coming up with a name, but eventually you'll get, and maybe you'll let's hope you'll be proud of it at the same point. And if you would like to wait 2 or 3 weeks for your Patreon nickname, head on over to patreon.com/HMP. You guys, it's so awesome to see you guys come back every single month, and we really appreciate all of you guys for all of the things that you do. Let's get into it, everybody. Here's the trailer for Hancock.
Suspects on northbound 110. Heavy gunfire exchanged. We need backup.
Fellas, listen, give yourselves up quietly. Okay.
Hancock's latest act of so-called heroics has once again enraged city officials.
I can smell that liquor on your breath.
Because I've been drinking.
Jackass.
Call me a jackass one more time.
Jackass.
How about you, Thickness? Goggles?
Hancock, son of a gun. I knew you'd come.
Stop crying, punk ass.
Not okay. I do public relations. People don't like you, Hancock.
I look like I care what people think.
I think you're wasting your time with this guy.
Pulled some stuff up on YouTube. Everybody remembers Walter, the gray whale. He was stuck on the beach. Along comes Hancock.
Oh my God.
I don't even remember that.
Greenpeace does. You're a superhero, for God's sakes. People should love you.
How are we gonna do that, Ray?
Right now, there's a DA trying to figure out how to come up here and put you in jail. I say you go.
He's not gonna go.
People take you for granted, you know? We gotta make people miss you.
If you don't move, your head is gonna pitch.
Jail watch day 5 and crime is still on the rise.
You got a phone call. It's the chief of police. He says he needs your help.
You have a calling. You're a hero, Hancock. You're gonna be miserable the rest of your life until you accept that.
Life here can be difficult for me. After all, I'm the only one of my kind. You deserve better from me. I will be better. I ain't wearing that. What? It's a little tight. What you got? Hancock! I need you to end this.
Do I have permission to touch your body?
Yes!
It's not sexual. Not that you're not an attractive woman. Maybe on a different day.
Get me out of here!
Hancock is down. He looks hurt.
That's it. Make it look hard.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Hancock. You know what time it is. Oops. Oh my God.
Wow, that's the ultimate mashup.
Hey, you got that's my DJ version
There's
of
like
that.
3 of them, man. 3 of them. So Hancock isn't based on a comic book. Really, it's not. But it does seem to have a lot in common with some various comic characters and stories. Something called firstshowing.net called Hancock the indie comic of superhero movies and suggested that if you like it, you should read Invincible, Dynamo 5, or Kick-Ass. I don't know if I'd agree wholeheartedly with those recommendations, But Hancock seems to me like a stab at hero reconstructionism. What is that? Well, I guess you could say it's a response to deconstructionism, which was brought so much to the forefront by Watchmen in the mid-'80s. Now, at the beginning of Hancock, he embodies every trope of the deconstructed hero. But by the end, he's reconstructed to meet something closer to the classical ideals of a superhero. Think of his arc as that of an anti-hero. And to be honest, I can't think of a whole lot of examples of this trope. But Booster Gold has followed this arc on occasion, starting out as a grifter from the future, not to be confused with the grifter of the present, the Wildstorm character Grifter. But Booster Gold's only motivation in the beginning for being a superhero is fame and fortune. But he does at times come to actually care about truth, justice, and all that other stuff. Maybe Plastic Man could be the earliest example of a reconstructed hero. He started out as a petty criminal, Eel O'Brien, and when he did the math, he decided it was slightly more profitable to be a hero than a villain, and with time, he came to care about making the world a better place, one hilarious change of shape at a time. Now, Hancock's long lifespan certainly brings to mind the Old Guard or the Eternals, and his powers, well, it's just your standard Superman clone power set. I guess he shares an anti-authoritarian streak with Wolverine, which is appropriate since his costume is lifted whole cloth from Bryan Singer's first X-Men movie. But the difference between Will Smith and Singer's X-Men, well, Will Smith makes that leather suit look good. And speaking of looking good in tight leather pants, Adam, do you have a list?
That's right, everybody. And by the way, hey, Sean.
Yeah.
26 seconds before his name got mentioned on the show. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. If that comic connection wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this superhero oddity because this movie's got everything. We got it starring Big Willie style, a young Charlize Theron who somehow looks like an older Charlize Theron. I'm not sure how that works. Mr. Hyundai himself, Jason Bateman, a huge 2008 superhero movie directed by the Kmart, Michael Bay, Peter Berg, written by Mr. Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan. We got bench sleeping, booze guzzling, pedestrian groping, freeway destroying, kid throwing, car dropping, train smashing, life saving, Hollywood Boulevard smashing, hospital destroying, amazingly short cameos that still get a title card billing from Thomas Lennon, I can't say that, and Johnny Galecki. That one I do okay. Nancy Grace saying, y'all, this Hancock is a terror. He is bad news. He is on the run again, and he is going to kill somebody. All wrapped up in a movie that'll have you say, I bet you $50 that I don't once use a tripod in this entire shoot. And word to the wise, do not play the Hancock drinking game. You will die. This movie has everything.
Oh, man. Peter Berg, I like that. Would you call him the Walmart version of Michael Bay?
He's Kmart, man. He's not even the Walmart. He's the Kmart.
But he's a journeyman. He's like one of those guys. He's got some wins. He's got a few in the win column, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff. Here's the thing. He's a very serviceable director. But he's got the ability to come in and for fairly decent budgets and stuff and get in he makes enough. He turns it all around. At the end of the day, that's what Pete Berg does. He turns stuff around for enough of a profit that people let him do whatever he wants to do. And the guy's a little bit nuts at the same time, too. Do you know he wrote Battleship on a battleship?
Yeah, that's when the L's started to pile up, was around that battleship time.
Me and some friends, after a night of watching movies at a video store, we went to a bar, and at that bar they were playing Battleship on the bar TV at very low volumes, and we drank and watched that entire movie at little to no volume. It was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. It's so amazing.
That sounds like something they do near the end of the night when they need to get people to go home.
Yeah, we put on Battleship, and all of a sudden everybody starts clearing out, but this video nerds just go hey, let's talk about how bad this movie is.
Yeah, there's a bar here where I live back in my younger days. When it was getting close to they wanted to clean everybody out, they would just put the Hootie and the Blowfish song, I Only Want to Be With You, on loop and play it for the last hour.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, after about time 3, you're let's split. We got to get out of here.
That's a good way to do it. My dad, very recently, I was talking to him. He's like, you know who I like? I like that Hootie and the Blowfish. Literally, within the last 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
I really like that Hootie and the Blowfish. They're good.
They finally made it to the classic rock radio station.
I guess so.
Wait till he finds out about that Burger King commercial.
I can't believe that this is co-written by Vince Gilligan, the script.
And honestly, it's punched up by Vince Gilligan. When I was reading the production story,
Is that what it is?
It was a completed script, and then Vince Gilligan was brought in to fix it.
Yeah,
because
so
there are I mean, this thing is so beat by beat what a movie is. It's like the writer had just read Save the Cat.
Yeah.
It's not far off. He doesn't have too much other stuff in his thing, so it felt like he got lucky with this, because now this will tell people a little something. When you see the writers' names up there on the screen, it has is it Vincent No? I'll just call him Vincent No. His name is first, and then there's and. That means someone else worked on it after that, not in conjunction
the
with.
ampersand.
And the ampersand is
not the ampersand.
Not the ampersand, but AND. And then Vince Gilligan. So Vince Gilligan came in and then gussied up his script and everything. Not so much so that he rewrote the entire thing. Most of the structure was there, but even so, a good amount of things Vince Gilligan kind of massaged this to become whatever it is.
That makes a lot of sense.
The original title of the screenplay, and this was the working title of the movie for a very long time, because this thing was in development for a while. But the original title was Tonight, He Comes.
Well,
can you imagine this movie having that title?
Well, I will say this: that's kind of hilarious, because of what happens in the movie, obviously. But to hang it all on that, huh? Okay.
Tonight, He Comes.
Yeah.
And I guess they thought that was a little too much like innuendo, so they switched it to Hancock, something that would not have dirty jokes made about it at all.
Yeah, nothing dirty there.
So what I'd like to do, if you guys are okay with this, is I would like to talk about the good things about this.
Let's do it,
because there is going to be a whole lot of bad from me anyway.
I'll start off, though, before you get into what you have to say.
Please.
The first act, or at least the first part of the first act, I remember watching this yesterday and thinking, man, I do not remember this movie being this good. So it does start off very well, in my opinion.
Right. The entirety of the trailer is all the first act of this movie.
Yeah.
And they're well served to do that, because that is the most interesting part of the movie. So here's what's to me. Here is what is good about it. Will Smith is a charm machine.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he's trying not to be a charming fella, he is still just as charming as he is when he's wearing that Men in Black suit.
Yeah, he's being a scumbag to everybody, and you're still kind of like, it's Will Smith. I still kind of like him.
He makes a face when he's in the car actually I don't think that he's in it. He's in the back window.
Yeah.
When the guys are shooting up, Hollywood Boulevard, and he makes a face that shows me that, this guy has studied other people's faces to just try to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's being an alcoholic, he's being he's being Hancock. And so he makes this face where his head hurts. It's clear that his head is hurting him.
Mm-hmm.
And he like pierces his lips just before he does something terrible. And I thought to myself, that guy has been people watching for this movie. And it was very interesting to me that he went that far with it, because I don't know how many Hollywood stars would do that at this point.
Yeah, honestly, that is one of the things. I mean, Will Smith comes up, and everybody, I think the first thing, and I think rightfully so, that they think is movie star, because he is. He's a giant movie star, but he's also a movie star that can act. When called upon and given the correct material, Will Smith can swing with him.
Yeah, I thought it was great in Ali. I think that's my personal favorite performance of his.
Yeah, he's really good in that.
But overall, it's funny because this whole movie talks about like people aging and everything, and we have like three of the people who have like aged the least in Hollywood in this film. It's 2008, and like now in 2022, they all look like maybe 5-6 years older, and you're like, what's going on?
Of the three of them, it's weird that it's Will Smith who looks older than the other two.
Yes.
It's very strange. And, I'll save it for later because we'll get to the bad stuff later. But, one of the things that I really like about this movie is that the kryptonite is another person.
Yeah.
And as someone who has lived like that, there has been times where it sure as hell felt like my only weakness is this person.
Yeah, I remember the whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking like, this is really a strong metaphor for something, but I just can't quite figure out what. And now I think you made it clear to me, Sean.
Yep.
It's like codependent, toxic relationships.
Yes. And it's pretty well thought out, that part of it. I was surprised by that, actually. I thought it would be far worse.
And really, the execution of it is quite good as well.
Yes.
They don't have to sit here and smash you on the head with it and tell you. They've done enough, groundwork ahead of time, letting you know what's what, and then they can visually tell you then what's going on. And Pete Berg is a good guy at doing that. He's a good kind of put together a little montage and stuff, a visual storytelling a bit from him. He's like I said, it's a lot like Michael Bay. It's that cinematic kind of like, hey, let me just kind of story tell with pictures as opposed to getting a whole bunch of dialogue off the ground. That would probably sound
well.
clunky.
I'll never agree with you that Michael Bay is a good storyteller.
Bro, wait till I'm telling you this ambulance movie. Oh my, some of the stuff they're doing in it's going to be unbelievable. So,
yeah, we'll see.
So excited.
We shall see. Nothing that man has ever touched have I gone, wow.
The
Nothing.
Rock.
I hate that movie.
Completely
unfunny.
Pain and Gain.
It's fine.
I think it seems better than it is because you expect.
Yes, because the bar is so unbelievably low.
It's got The Rock and Mark Wahlberg and Michael Bay, and it's actually a serviceable movie. So I think that's why you think
serviceable is a good descriptor for that. So another thing that I really like about this movie is that this is basically the first movie where they said, "Hey, Charlize Theron could totally play an action hero."
Yeah.
I know that she'd been in a lot of things. I mean, she's already been an Oscar winner.
Yep.
I think
she's a winner at this point.
For Monster, and so we know she can act. But this is the first movie that really put it together. Like, she looks like somebody who can handle herself, and they kind of got it. And so from here forward, her career is going to change for the better.
And that twist with her was about the only thing I remembered from having seen this movie before. I really did not remember most of the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having remembered that like ahead of time, did you, like I did, it felt like watching a different movie this time through having known what you know. And her performance is actually that, like, what looks like she's just kind of sketchy of this stranger at first, when you watch it without having any context to it. Now it looks like, oh, she knows. She's 100% aware of what's kind of going on. She knows that he doesn't.
She keeps giving him side eyes from the very beginning.
Yeah, she's got the heebie-jeebies from Jump, and you're just thinking, I mean, if on first viewing, you're just going like, wow, she's really just, he's a superhero. I know he's a drunk and everything, but you seem a little bit on edge.
Great.
Yeah.
She plays her role great. And in fact, at one point I was thinking, am I like crossing wires? Like, am I remembering my super ex-girlfriend mixed in with Hancock? But no, I remembered it properly.
Right. And she is, it's so weird because it feels like they kind of don't know what to do with her. Like, I think it's great that they cast her. She's the perfect person to cast, but it feels like maybe they're shooting her wrong. They keep shooting her like, isn't this crazy? She's a superhero.
She is one of the few people who kind of got over this Best Actress curse, if you will. There was kind of this thing that, like, if you got Best Actress, for whatever reason, your career actually didn't get better. It got worse.
It's her and Angelina Jolie are the only two I can really think of that their careers got better after the Oscar.
I mean, even like Halle Berry, like, she had like a little hit, but then it was just like, whoop, back on down. It was such an odd thing, but she was one that kind of just smashed through that in a very kind of, not glamorous role and stuff, and then still continues to go on and just kill it year after year.
Yeah, she ends up getting to book not one, but like 2 Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, I mean, like, a height of
3
your own.
now, right? 3?
I don't know.
Really amazing work in those movies.
But she's, I think that they're not quite sure what to do with her yet because she's kind of come back from that Oscar win and everything. She's doing a couple different things, but this is just me kind of projecting on who I think this, powerful woman is. But I think she's somehow went, you know what, here's what I want to do, and the direction that I feel like, that I can handle, and based upon, what she's kind of done in the past, and it's worked. When you have Atomic Blonde, you buy it 100%.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
But I think she, like, right after this, I think this movie was probably the catalyst for that, of getting to go, like, you know what, she looks like she can handle herself, and we put her in these right situations and stuff, and we obviously know that she is a great actor, so you're set.
I mean, she's one of those people that she could probably fit in a Mad Max movie. I mean, she has range.
Get out of here. No way.
But then,
I don't buy it.
But then you've got, like, Jason Bateman just coming in, and honestly, without him, I don't know that the movie works half as, I think the movie would suffer if
I can't stand him. I can't stand him in this, but we'll get to that.
But
I'll be curious to hear about that, because he has so much goodwill for me for what he's done after this.
Sure.
Like, it's retroactive goodwill that but when I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, this is before Jason Bateman, like, expanded what he would do in a performance. Like, this is when he was still kind of a typecast. Like, you weren't getting a performance, you were getting a Jason Bateman.
You were getting Jason Bateman, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But for me, I like, so he kind of fell short for you. I wasn't,
look, to me, this is the period of Jason Bateman where he has two speeds, and it's sort of the Ben Stiller thing that Ben Stiller has, where, like, you're either going to get crazy bad guy Ben Stiller, or you're going to get the guy who falls all over himself Ben Stiller.
Right.
And with Jason Bateman, you either get smarmy Jason Bateman being very Jason Bateman-y, or you're going to have the good-hearted Jason Bateman being smarmy. Jason Bateman.
Yeah, this is the naive, good-hearted Jason Bateman.
Right. And it's one or the other with him during this period. Now we know that he's got, a curveball and a slider and a fastball, but at that time he only had two speeds. And so I think that it's still during that time where I'm like, how much longer are you going to be playing this person? We're at year 7 of him doing that in 2008. So, like, I get it. Michael Cera coasted on that for a long time too. The difference is that Jason Bateman is actually an actor.
Yeah.
Like he has been doing it his entire life. And so you got to do more than this, Jason. And so it was sort of cringeworthy for me.
So you don't want to see Michael Cera in Othello, is what you're trying to tell everybody.
I think that if
only if he's playing the title role,
if he can do it, great. But I've never seen him be able to play something like that.
No, you're true. He's kind of played Michael Cera pretty much the entire time.
The one other nice thing about this movie is that because it's so forgetful, when you watch it a second time, you're like, oh, right. Oh, wow. I didn't see that coming. Like there are a few moments here in this movie, like when he puts the thing on the, he spikes the car through the Chrysler building or whatever that is. Mm-hmm. Like that's Tower Records, I think it is.
Yeah, West Coast.
It's surprising, like it is a surprising moment. I've totally forgot that they did that in this movie because, again, it's sort of kind of forgetful, but I do like that there's surprises in store for you if you've never seen this movie before.
And also, I mean, this is 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So this is like right on that line too, where it looks modern enough that you're shocked when it's acceptable to say that superhero costumes make people look like homosexuals. And
well, we're going to get into that because that's my biggest problem.
Okay. But it's like right on that line though. Like this is right. Like the day after it was released, you couldn't do that anymore.
Now, at the same time too, like I thought that felt like they were trying to like, look at this guy. He like, this is like they were playing that as a scummy part of him. Obviously, that's what.
No, they weren't. They were trying to break it down the middle. Is what they were doing.
Now, something that at this point in time, I mean, and also in our current point in time, but Will Smith has his own uncredited punch-up writers that just handle his lines, and that sounds like something Will Smith's people came up with.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to say that.
Absolutely. And I'm shifting. I'm shifting now.
Let's shift it on.
I'll just say some more good things about it is a lot of times for a high concept movie, they're satisfied to just be high concept. But like I said before, I think they are trying to say something. The story is trying to be more than just the high concept. They're trying to do some world building here. And like I said, I couldn't quite figure out what this was a metaphor for, but I knew they had something in mind. And I admire that because it's awfully easy to say, hey, we've got Will Smith, we've got this high concept. Let's just go out there and, make another version of Men in Black or Independence Day, but this time he's a superhero. And they followed through with the story that would have worked as well without Will Smith. It wasn't dependent on his personality for the story, though maybe that first act is all built on him.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, like if you think about it and like switch around actors, because I was thinking about this, is like, what if you had different actors for these roles? This movie would not be, as serviceable as it is. Because if you put, just generic guy into, this role, or, I was trying to think of like, she's not horrible, but like if you put Jessica Biel in Charlize Theron's role, it would just be terrible.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yes.
Like, this could be really bad, but they at least got enough talented people involved that it's not, struggling to stay above water.
But when I'm talking about story, like I'm thinking, if I read this, would it have any value? And I think that like it has some value if I read it, because then you're casting the actors in your mind. Now, the first act is totally a Will Smith thing. Like the first act's totally different if I'm reading this story, but it actually has a story. Like a lot of things, like a lot of things that are built around charisma, personality, high concept would actually not be a great read. It's pretty visual and a lot of joke timing and stuff. But this one, they do try to have a story that works regardless of casting. I think that's what I was trying to say.
And, I do have one more positive thing. Sorry. That I was trying to, and this conversation has made me think about that. So one of the things that having Will Smith in your role, when he's being awful at the beginning here, you still like him anyway because he's Will Smith. And I was trying to think of what is the worst case scenario for this movie? Like, who is the worst actor you could cast as Hancock and you would never get out of thinking this guy's a scumbag? And I think I figured it out. That actor is Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, yes.
If you have Kiefer Sutherland playing Hancock, you aren't getting out of the first act of that movie.
I'll say Jai Courtney. You get Jai Courtney, and he can't turn it on you, man.
That's true.
Here's the thing: modern day, like
Corey Stoll. No hope if Corey Stoll's Hancock.
I'm not. And I, me, I am on the record. But I think he would do an okay job. The Australian there as Hancock. Why not?
Because he's got a punchable face.
Exactly. Like he's got that kind of like, I can be a jerk to everybody and get away with it.
He would have to play the jerk all the way through. He couldn't play the jerk that turns you around.
Oh, right. Yeah. So
like he'd have to do Captain Boomerang, his best role ever, because he's jerk all the way through.
Oh, I forgot. I wanted to talk about Jason Bateman's character again for half a second here, because you mentioned that like, oh, he's a good guy. I disagree with that, actually. I think he's probably a scumbag. And I say that because what does his company do?
They try to solicit donations.
Yeah, exactly. All he cares about, it's one of these, NGO things where he's just making a whole bunch of money to have stupid propaganda that will ultimately do nothing.
Now, I think you're putting some of your own perspective onto that, because I don't see that he was actually trying to make a dime from this.
Well, he's trying to do something. Like he's not doing this.
He's trying to make the world a better place.
Right.
That's part of why that character's, you don't buy him.
Right. But he's also going to he'll be getting a paycheck for his services. Pitching all
well,
of this,
if this were the real world, yes, but I don't think in this story he is.
And not only that, but how much you think that house goes for? That him and Charlize are living in.
Oh my god!
You notice they never mention what Charlize does for a living. Like I'm thinking she must be rich. Yeah. Or she inherited. I mean, she's immortal, so she probably
she comes from old money
from her parents or something. Yeah.
It's like it feels like you could have sold half of that house and really helped out some people there, boss.
But they never talked about the financial situation, but you get it without them having to tell you. The way she's like telling him, "Oh, you're doing a good job. Don't worry." You get the idea that she is the one who has the money in the relationship, and he's feeling a little inadequate, so he's trying to make an impact. But they're filthy independently wealthy because she's been saving money since since the founding of Mesopotamia.
those moisturizers have been just done fantastic work.
Yeah, she looks great in this. She looks great in everything though.
So let's get into.
You haven't seen Monster, apparently.
I have. I have. Yes, she doesn't look great in that, but that's on purpose. So here are my three big tenets to this movie that I have that I just have massive problems with this movie. One is, and this is the quibble thing. One is that it's a tone issue. This movie, you know, if you're starting out your movie with scumbagginess, and then you're trying to be this like a different movie by the end, it doesn't work because your tones are shifting greatly from act 1 to act 2 to act 3, which is why everybody seems, at least in this podcast, seems to really like act 1, and then act 2 and 3 not so much. That's part of the problem. Also, the fact of like, you can watch this movie with the sound off and you know what everyone is saying to each other without ever having to hear what they're saying to each other. Like, just from plot points, like, oh, okay, so this is the part where they have to do this. It's that kind of movie where you know everything that's going to come out of this person's mouth if you've seen enough movies. And that's a massive problem for me. So that's problem one. What do you guys think?
I'm with you on that for the most part. Like, that is a problem sometimes with high concept movies, though, is you've got a concept and sometimes they do attempt to have a story, but they still don't have characterization.
Right. Okay. So part two, my second biggest problem with this movie is that they do the thing that you can't ever do in your movie, which is that you cannot make a joke out of the thing that is actually the thing that is the problem. Meaning that when Jason Bateman is talking to Will Smith and he's like, look, what's the problem? Is the problem that I think it might be because you're lonely. And like it's said like a joke. It is filmed like it is a joke.
Yeah.
Everyone's response to this is like he just said a joke. And that is actually and honestly the problem that this character is having. You cannot have that thing happen. Either don't make the joke or have it be something else. But
and I think that's also in the same vein of you're making a superhero movie. So people who are fans of superheroes are going to come watch it. And then you're talking about like, we're not lame like comic book superhero, when they're kind of insulting the comic book covers.
Yes. Which brings me to my third part, which is that for a movie that was shot in 2008 or that was released in 2008, there sure is a whole lot of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure happening in this movie where you have the character of Hancock making fun of the way that Asian people speak at the beginning of the movie. And plus not caring what sort of Asian that person is. And on top of that, you have like the, oh my God, you speak English. You have that whole thing too. That is massively problematic. And then you got the homophobic jokes with the comic book covers. Look, treat people who are marginalized with a little bit of respect, please. Especially in your gigantic big budget movie. Like let's at least give people some common dignity.
I mean,
and at the very least, it's lazy. Like it's kind of lazy.
You hope to learn in your first month of attempting anything related to comedy is the whole don't punch down. And boy, they kind of forgot about that here.
Yes. And look, like I get that, like that I sound like woke culture or whatever. I'm not trying to be woke. I'm literally I'm asking for common decency is what I'm asking for.
It's just, it's a little odd, especially like, original rating is PG-13. So it's like the younger audience is what we're trying to attract to this movie.
And it's late. It's too late to be doing this stuff. What are you doing?
Yeah, it isn't like 1997 where you would just kind of be like, all right, well, it was a little. We were kind of winding it.
Different time.
We were winding it down in the late 90s. It's like this is 2008, bro.
I found Long Duck Dog hilarious in 16 Candles, but that was in 1983. Like it's a totally different animal here. We should know better by this point. It's embarrassing.
Well, also embarrassing is just how we're supposed to believe that all of this would turn around for this character like this, in this fashion, this quickly. It is like he basically gets listen, if you admit that you were a bad boy and you go to your room for 2 weeks, you will become a better person and then decide to save everybody. Like, what?
Well, but I think that they kind of get that out of the way pretty good, though, because basically what they're setting up is like the reason why people are still putting up with this guy in the first place is because he does do things that no one else can do. And so, people do rely on him for certain things. They just don't like the way that he does it.
Right. And then honestly, that opening scene really is great with him. Just absolutely things that could stop so fast. You could end this as a superhero real quick, but he is just hammered, smashing everything on the freeway and just the ungodly destruction just to police cars alone that happens in that opening sequence. It's like, I wish we had more stuff like that throughout where he was just learning, and I don't know, because he turned into a Boy Scout way too fast, and all it took was a couple of montages. That's what you have a problem with. Yeah. You don't have you're having a problem with the jetpacking to where we need to go. Exactly. We jumped way too fast into that, and it was, and he, what reason would he have to go along with this? Really? He's just like, the guy who you saved just has a neat and interesting idea for your publicity and stuff. Why is he coming back the next day? It really doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think there's double reason for that. I think one, somewhere in the back of his head, he knows who this lady is.
I think there probably is a little bit of that. Yeah, like because he does have a couple of looks back and forth where he's just like, where it does look like a "do I know you" kind of look.
He literally does have the eyes of, how do I know this person, when he first sees her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect to it.
And she has that look of like, oh no, does he see me too?
I think we're supposed to understand that there's like a sort of a supernatural element to it. Like she says, no matter where they are, he always keeps seeking her out. Like think of it like that was a really, or something.
Right. Yeah, I like that too. That like, they try to get away from each other, but ultimately come back. And again, that is one of the problems, is that you're like, what are we saying here? What is the, it's not love conquers all. It's called, listen, if you really love each other, stay away.
But call it a design flaw.
But at the same time, exactly, it's the weird design flaw too, because they were like, we were made in pairs and we also can't be together. You're like, do what now? This sounds like somebody really did plan something out.
Yeah, sounds like some Greek mythology there.
Yeah, that is some total like malarkey Greek mythology stuff for sure.
Both together.
There's also some interesting concepts. They're like interesting concepts in quantum physics and with subatomic particles, that they're like these particles that the further apart they are, the stronger they pull towards each other. And when they start getting closer, they have almost no pull at all. And they always use the young lovers comparison to help you learn about that particular subatomic particle. So it is something that does exist in nature. It doesn't make sense.
Well, great. Now I'm an idiot again. Thanks, Bruce.
Sorry. I fart a lot.
I like to think that every 100 years she just smacks him on the head with a frying pan and has another little concussion and just goes like,
you know darn well she's the one who concussed him.
Of
course.
Come on.
You know how things would turn out if any of the three of us dated someone with superhuman powers. Concussions would be coming our way. That's one reason why I don't date superheroes.
They talk about it like, oh, we were out this back alley minding our own business going to see Frankenstein, which I thought was kind of a great little nod.
So you're telling me the last person I was with was you, and you thought we needed to be apart, and somebody was able to smash my skull? I can figure that. You don't got to be no Hercule Poirot to figure that one out.
And I also love at the end, he ends up like he's an East Coast superhero now.
Yeah.
Because he's like, listen, I'll just save people over on this side of the planet.
I'll punch Mike Epps. That's what I'm going to do.
And he's not alone anymore.
I stepped out of the room when the credits went, and all of a sudden I hear a voice come back on. I walk in, and it's Mike Epps holding somebody at gunpoint, and I'm like, what's going on here?
And I didn't want to rewind it and watch it twice, but the first time it kind of went by quickly. Does Mike Epps call him hand job?
Yes, he does.
That's a joke I'm surprised they waited that long to use.
Yeah.
You know what was really surprising to me? I don't know how you guys viewed this, but I watched it on Peacock, which I had never used.
That was an option?
Before.
Oh,
yes.
Man, I paid to watch this.
I had never watched anything on Peacock before. And there's a really weird thing where they like all of the cursing, all of the murdering, like all of that is still in. However, in the music, they like phase out when the music is cursing.
The Ludacris song. That's in the theatrical cut. That's in every cut. Yeah, that's in the master, and it's move.
Yeah,
get out the way. Yeah, they did the radio edit of the Ludacris song.
I see. I thought that was a Peacock doing that.
Yeah, kind of strange with all the things. Yeah, that the movie's content is, but they just used the radio edit of the song.
Well, here's what happens. I can tell you exactly what happens. This is a PG-13 movie as theatrically released, and we're like, listen, we're just going to cut all of our losses here and just kind of throw the edited version in this way. Nobody's giving us any kind of static or anything on this. And when it comes time to do the unrated version where we throw in 3 more seconds of something, but don't resubmit it to the AMPAA, ergo it is unrated. And you just like, well, we don't want to have to license it again because maybe it's another license to get the one with cursing or it's a different thing. I don't know, but that's my best guess for that. It just comes down to laziness.
Well, I mean, laziness, and what does it really add to the movie?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, well, we're not hearing Luda go full out, so F, no good. I'm going to have to quit this movie. Thank you. I don't remember.
That's the moment I turned it off and everybody clapped.
I don't remember how well this movie did.
I don't
It was the
either.
4th highest grossing movie of the year, according to Wikipedia.
Wow.
So that's pretty good. It made money.
Well, okay.
And there's currently still occasional sequel talk.
According to the IMDb, budget for this bad boy was $150 million. Gross worldwide budget, or gross worldwide, is $629 million.
Yeah, 4 times its budget. Not bad.
So they did okay with this thing. Yeah, it's kind of surprising that in the world of, like, especially now that superhero movies have gone up and let's be honest, Charlize Theron's career's risen like 1,000% over this one, and Will Smith's, like, for the most part, still as big as he's ever been, Oscar nominated this year and everything. So,
yep.
I'm surprised that this hasn't come up. And throw a little
What I've
bit of bread
read
Vince
is-
Gilligan's way, maybe.
I've read that the big problem is they can't get Epps to sign on for a sequel.
Oh, that Epps is
that makes sense.
He's one of those. He's tight-lipped. He's tight-lipped on what he wants to do, and but you got to take your own time for your own projects. I don't begrudge the man at all.
Yeah, I mean, kind of interesting because everybody seemed to have plans for a sequel, and it never got made on a movie that made a lot of money. And by all reports, Will Smith and Charlize Theron were both up for a sequel.
I can't imagine that you're going to get Vince Gilligan back for anything.
But dude, I'm going to say you're making a sequel as a financial decision.
Yes.
And you're making a sequel to sell tickets. And in 2008, are the people buying tickets because Vince Gilligan punched up a script?
No.
So even if Vince Gilligan's not involved, I don't think that's the rate limiting step.
No, but as one of you guys had mentioned earlier, like, Vince Gilligan, blah, blah, blah. And I don't, and not to say that he wouldn't do it. I totally could see him thinking like, oh, you know what? I don't want to work on another big series. I would totally, spend 6 months to make a new script. Like, I totally could see him
Some
doing
of those
that.
crazy writer guys, man, all of a sudden are just like, I was a little bored, so I came up and I just wrote this movie. Some of those cats are, I don't know if he's one of those guys, but some of those dudes do that.
Well, there was already not a screenplay, but I mean, there's a story in place where the story was going to be a third immortal shows up, and Will Smith and Charlize Theron have to find a way to work together to take him down because they can't be like in proximity for very long, but they need both of them to work together to take him down, and that is the conflict. Oh. So they already knew where they were going to go with it, and they had both of them signed on. Well, not signed on, but both verbally said they'd like to do it. And like, even still, like every couple of years, they say, yeah, we're thinking about doing a Hancock sequel. It's like, when are we going to get that next Dick Tracy movie, Hancock and Dick Tracy, every year?
Boy, those kids are really just clamoring for a new Dick Tracy.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if it was that same sort of thing, like Dick Tracy, where Will Smith had to show up in Hancock gear every couple of years just to like say, "Hey, conference. I'm still working on this Hancock thing, so ain't none of y'all going to be able to touch any of the rights, so cut it out, stop it now." And he just keeps on rolling with that because he wants Hancock. That's his role. No one else gets it.
in the world of modern superhero movies and shared universes, is there a character Hancock could cross over with? Like, is there another Hancock out there? Like, this movie feels so singular to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem with the lore that they create here and everything is that they say, listen, all of the other ones are killed off. We are literally the last two here. So,
It's true.
So the most two interesting people on Earth are not supposed to be anywhere around each other. Okay, great.
No, I'm just saying you're doing a Freddy versus Jason. You're doing a Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh,
Like,
I
forget
see,
about
I
the
see.
lore. Like, if we say, like, Men in Black and 21 Jump Street, like, who does Hancock cross over with?
Oh.
Because I don't know. Does Hancock cross over with Unbreakable? I don't think so. Like, does Hancock cross over with My Super Ex-Girlfriend? Like, one's too serious, one's too silly. I don't know what Hancock. Brightburn, does Hancock work as a crossover with Brightburn? He has to bring that kid down.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like a different temperament. It's
Yeah,
almost
it's like such a singular hero. Like, I can think of other non-comic book inspired original movie superheroes, but I'm trying to think, like, which one would you want to have a Hancock crossover with? Who is the Kong to
I
his
think
Godzilla?
the closest is the boys.
I was gonna say,
I think I could see that. But that is a comic book property though. But I could see that.
if you get what's his name there from Invincible,
Omni-Man.
Omni-Man, yeah, that'd be those two
That would be
against
interesting.
those two fighting against each other. That'd be an interesting clip right there.
Yeah, it'd be like Invincible and Hancock versus Omni-Man. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
And you do it animated. That way, Will Smith only has to talk into his cell phone. He'd have to show up if he doesn't want to.
Talk into a cell phone.
He's got 5G. It'll sound good.
Well, Vince Gilligan, we know you've been listening to this show for years. Now you got your marching orders. Put it together.
Hey, that's great, man.
It sounds like a good
John
one.
Wick and Hancock. That's the crossover I want.
There's if you massage that idea enough, there's something in there that might could.
RoboCop.
Ooh, Hancock and RoboCop. The Michael Keaton RoboCop.
Of course, no.
Who played RoboCop in that movie? I can't remember who was RoboCop. I tell my kids Michael Keaton was RoboCop.
That's not true. I forget one of those guys that just has one of those standard faces, you know, like that. Like this, just like I'm a regular white guy. Look,
Was it Sam Worthington? Wasn't he like really hot for 3 months?
No.
I think it's past the Worthington Assance. It's Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah.
It is.
For real? Oh,
Yeah.
I just thought that
What
was
did
a
I
joke.
tell
Like,
you?
Joe Kinnaman's totally the kind of guy who would get in a forgettable role like
Exactly. He's got like he is
that.
like
Too good to be true.
when you just think of generic white man, Joel Kinnaman
When
is what you
can't
look
get
like.
Scott Eastwood, you call Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah. At least Eastwood's got a pedigree. We'll put that into that gets at least a couple of bars right there. All right, before we get to our grade here and everything, we have to find out how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Mr. Stallone, are you familiar with the work of Peter Berg? If not, would you allow me a few minutes of your time to explain? You see, Peter Berg these days is mostly known as a director of Mark Wahlberg movies that are based on real-life events. But before that, he was just a director. For instance, he directed this movie, Hancock, a film that you are connected to quite closely. See, it goes like this. Before Peter Berg directed exclusively movies based on real life events, he was a director who directed all kinds of different movies that didn't star Mark Wahlberg. There's a movie about high school football. There's a movie that's based on a board game. There's a movie that had The Rock in it that started a 20-year mediocre movie trend that will never be beaten. And before that, he was an actor. He acted in movies like Very Bad Things and Shocker. He's probably best known as Dr. Billy Cronk on Chicago Hope, which is a television series that was the other medical drama up against ER. To put it in nerd terms, Chicago Hope was the GoBots. Sure.
Yeah.
It had fans, but no one's picking Scooter over Bumblebee. I remember Peter Berg from the movie Great White Hype, which is a movie I can only guess is problematic these days. I haven't seen it in 20 years, but I remember him being funny in it. But I also remember Ace Ventura being hilarious. And these days, the end of that movie could be charged with a hate crime. Anyway, back when Peter Berg was exclusively an actor, he was in this movie called Copland, starring you, Sylvester Stallone. We don't get to reference Copland much on this show, but in my humble opinion, it's one of your best movies after First Blood and Rocky III. Why? Well, there's a lot to recommend the movie Copland. It's directed by James Mangold. It stars De Niro when he still cared about acting. Harvey Keitel is being that good kind of crazy, not the crazy kind of crazy, and he keeps it in his pants for a change. And Janine Garofalo plays your partner, continuing her 10-year run as teenage boy number one crush in this movie. She's so short that when she's standing next to you, you look like you're 5 foot, or you look like you're 6'5". I should have said 5'5". It would have been much funnier. I know that anyone ever talks about this movie is that you gained 40 pounds for this role, and the media congratulated you for getting really into the part. But what about those people who put on 40 pounds and aren't in a movie? I'm asking for a friend. Oh, early 2000s, sweet Chauncey. I look at those pictures and think, do you really not understand just how depressed you are? You might actually be clinically depressed. Don't you realize that needing to be drunk every day is probably a red flag? You dropped the weight pretty quick after Copland there, Mr. Stallone. And I dropped the weight. It took me a lot longer. But not being a falling down drunk and not being a miserable human being certainly did help. And that's how you're connected to the movie Hancock, not through alcoholism, but through the acting talents of Peter Berg, who directed this movie. I'll try to do better next week. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Well, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you like, check it out. Head on over to the Reddit, reddit.com/r/Hero Movie Podcast. Bruce, where does Hancock fall in the Robin rating system for you?
Great first act. I kind of think it would have had an interesting sequel. Second act, it just had some unanswered questions. Like, we didn't really get into the stuff I didn't like about it, but there's stuff that just sometimes felt like it didn't quite have an explanation, didn't fit in. It was just there because they thought it would look cool, but it didn't look that cool. This is kind of like middle of the road. You know, for the first act alone, it's worth watching. How you feel about the ending is probably going to vary from person to person. The second act drags, I guess, is what I'm saying. That dragging middle, that sagging middle is going to make me give it a Damian Wayne is where this one tops out for me.
All right, Sean?
I would have given this movie just a Damian Wayne, like a low Damian Wayne, but I can't because of the racism in this movie and the homophobia in this movie makes me drop it down at one full grade to a Stephanie Brown because let's be better. Let's be better and give everyone common decency. It's a Stephanie Brown.
Just Damian Wayne for me. I feel like if you'd have asked me ahead of time, I think I would have thought I would have liked this a little bit more than I did. It was interesting seeing it through this time, knowing what I know, and Charlize is, acting her tail off all through this beginning here with their very suspicious of him looking. Does he know? I don't know if he understands. Does he recognize me? I don't kind of get it. It's a lot of fun. And really, I love the ending is really great. Finding out that what the problem is with these two and, him kind of jumping away and then being able to eventually get to fly and stuff like that. I thought that was just really well done. Overall, though, it does just kind of fall flat and you don't really care too much about the characters because the character development isn't super strong in this. And I think that that's ultimately where the problem lies. So it's just a fair Damian Wayne for me, right there in the middle. That will do it, everybody, for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. We're going to talk about what we're doing next week in just a second, though. Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet? I'd like for people to check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie, and see me covering some great anime right now. Attack on Titan, final season, penultimate episode. I've got the reaction to that coming up at midnight tonight, and I'm still covering Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, all kinds of other stuff that I've covered you can check out there. I recently went to see Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which was the highest grossing new release film this weekend, and I've got that review up on YouTube right now. Yeah, and Bruce and I will be talking about that on the Film Find soon. I didn't get a chance to see it Saturday night because my thought was I'll get off of work and then I'll watch the movie when no one else is in the theater and have a good old time. And then somebody decided to vomit for 20 feet, and I had to clean all that up. So that
boy,
it kind of put a damper on the evening, so I had to put it off for a day. So
you know what? I'll allow it.
I wasn't super. I was like, you know what? I'm going home. I've had enough for today. Thank you very much. And I got a thing tomorrow. So, but Bruce and I will be doing that soon. Sean, we got so many other shows in the hopper. What's coming up next?
Well, in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing Moon Knight 30 Questions. And then after that, we've got Kenobi 30 Questions. So show up for those things. It's going to be, if you are already on the Mandalorian feed, you will be getting the Kenobi. And if you're already on the Marvel 30 Questions feed, you'll be getting the Moon Knight.
You don't got to do nothing. You just keep on subscribe like you are. Keep on listening, throwing in those 5-star reviews if you haven't. That's something that we always, especially with, kind of newer shows and stuff, throw a couple of reviews our way. We really appreciate that. And to those of you that have already done so, a big giant thank you to you.
Yes. And so that's what we're doing.
Check all that kind of good stuff out. All right, so next week we have put it up to our Patreon supporters to vote on the movies that we watch. Here are their options. We have Thor, Hammer of the Gods, Metal Man, Rise of the Black Cat, The Grim Avengers, and Sinister Squad. And it is a runaway success, boys. The Grim Avengers has won the day.
Oh, wow.
By
so that makes you happy, Adam, because you were so worried about Sinister Squad and you'd be lost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be out in the woods without a guide. You know what I'm saying? I can't jump into the middle of the story. You're not going to I'm not going to the two towers before I see Fellowship of the Ring. What's wrong with you? You're going to be very confused as to what's going on. So we'll be checking out Grim Avengers next week. So thank you to the supporters over at patreon.com/HMP, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, HMP nickname, all of that good stuff. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for the Grim Avengers. For Sweet Jones and Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
I'm Artie and Evie.
When